globalization stimulates the increase in migration and overseas learning that result in the dramatic growth for global mobility and interconnectivity. According to the latest data, there were nearly 500,000 people immigrating to Australia in 2019. This global mobility shifts local literacies, not only language but social cultural beliefs, to new places, and at the same time brings the literacies of a new place back home. Our presentation is focusing on how does the global mobility challenge our previous perception towards literacy by performing the same play about Ray and Charlie's story. We critically set their conversations by embedding concepts including transnational literacies, media and digital literacy. Based on their stories, we aim to analyze the constant change, interconnectivity, hybridization of culture emerged from our negotiation with these literacies, and question the power relations and evaluate how we could teach literacy in cultural diverse classrooms, which inspired by the current crisis.
Hi everyone, I'm Ray, a Chinese international student doing Master of Education in Melbourne Uni. I'm so into literacy, so let me introduce myself by using language portrait. Mandarin is my mother language I've been using in my daily routine for more than 20 years. As a major communication tool for my studying and living communication in China, it greatly contributes to the construction of my identity, social, and cultural beliefs. Shanghainese, as my dialect, is widely used while I'm communicating with my families. Always provides a sense of belonging and nostalgia across the physical space. English became the dominant language while I started my life in Australia. I use academic English, for example, terminologies for university assignments to represent my academic skills in different courses. I realize that academic English is also used by teachers, showing their authority and a great tool for representing an individual's professionalism in certain area. I met my boyfriend Charlie in literacy class at first semester. He's an Australian who can't speak Mandarin at all, so I translate myself from academic to casual English for daily communication, including using a lot of abbreviation, idioms, and memes for the meaning-making process. Since I came to Australia, I found English has its hegemonic power in Australian teaching pedagogy. Sometimes I feel a sense of isolation and loneliness for the English-only policy in our classroom. I remember that when I met Charlie, I talked to him. I felt really sad about the monolingual ideology in Australian curriculum. You know that most of international students have to take foundation programs and standardized English proficiency tests, such as IELTS, as a prerequisite to receiving a university's offer. In my foundation program, English is the only language we are allowed to speak in order to improve our language capacity by constantly practicing it. Charlie said this to me.
I feel it's a loss for cultural and linguistic diversity, and I think monolingual ideology in Australian curriculum disadvantages international students by putting English in a privileged position. There's definitely no standard English, and it's not fair to expect native-like performance for all international students. I mean, what is actually nativeness? Really, I love how you speak differently with your Chinese friends and families. You're using different language, and did you realize that your tones and pitches are changing while you are transiting these languages based on different contexts? Maybe you can teach me some simple Chinese or even Shanghainese, so our conversation is multilingual then.
I felt lucky and immediately fell in love with Charlie because he's understandable and loves listening to my thought, and I enjoy our literacy-related conversations a lot. So just want to share more Charlie and Ray's stories and our daily conversation with you guys. Hope you will like it.
Babe, any travel plan during our summer vacation?
I heard that the Great Ocean Road is very beautiful.
No problem. Let's arrange the schedule.
Life is tough.
What's wrong, baby? You look upset.
I was just thinking if my parents would come and travel with us. I really enjoyed the dinner with your parents last time.
That's not a big deal. Just invite your parents to come to Australia this summer. I will arrange all those stuff. You don't need to worry so much. Never seen that before.
It was originally in Sichuan dialect, which means you don't understand that. It's a popular slang in China.
Gotcha. Why did you say that you know a hammer yesterday?
It's a bit complicated. Simply my parents don't know that I like boys yet. I still haven't found an appropriate chance to come out.
I know it takes courage to say it, and it's not easy. I will be there for you.
I don't know what to say. I don't think my parents will accept it easily.
What you think is too complicated. We are just like the ordinary couple. See us walking on the street. Everyone treats us like a normal couple. We are normal indeed. The same-sex marriage in Australia has been legalized since December 2017. This is not a big deal, honey.
No, you may not know much about social cultural acceptance of homosexuality in my home country. Same-sex marriage is not legalized in China yet, and the social acceptance towards homosexuality is not high enough. I can feel the improvement in recent years, but I don't think the current social environment in China can give me enough confidence to come out. I've hinted my parents about the message, which was totally unacceptable to them and even considered homosexuality as a mental illness. However, their attitudes have changed in recent years, but only to the extent that they have accepted the existence of homosexuality in society. Besides, I'm the only child in my family. My parents have high expectations for me, hoping that I can get married with a girl so that they can have grandchildren. I think if they knew I was a gay, it would be a shame for them. I'm under a lot of pressure when thinking about these unsolved problems.
There, I hadn't thought this before. It seems that the social cultural literacy, such as recognition of homosexuality in China and Australia, are distinct with each other. But don't worry, I'm sure we can get through this. Trust me, love wins. I'm always on your side. Those problems can be solved eventually. The increasing mobility and demographic shifts stimulate the growth of media and transnational literacy, consequently lead to the phenomenon of diversification. This diversification is usually embodied in the collision and fusion of different linguistic and social cultural literacies. For example, in Ray and Charlie's conversation about recognitions towards homosexuality in their society, we perceive the conflict, interplay, and integration of ideology which came from two different social backgrounds, China and Australia. This integration goes beyond multiculturalism. In this case, the transnational literacy enables diverse cultures becoming relative, homogeneous, while Charlie comforting Ray and convince him love wins. The global pandemic COVID-19 has its dramatic impact all over the world. Australia started its national and state-level lockdown policy by suggesting working and learning at homes. Charlie and Ray has also impacted by this pandemic, and here is their story related to dealing with digital and transnational literacy during this crisis. Hey, babe, have you received the school's lockdown email? The school pauses all teaching this week, and we are transiting from physical to virtual campus on 3rd of March.
Yeah, I saw that. I've no idea what a virtual campus will be, but I heard from my friend who was affected by the travel ban and have been studying at home in China as an offshore student for 3 weeks.
Oh, is everything going well? I know China has restrictions on accessing Google and etc. Does it impact on their studying, such as doing research for assignments?
Yeah, my friend told me the school provides VPN for offshore students, but they still feel isolated without regular interactions with teachers and classmates. I guess it just requires higher capacity in decoding digital literacy, including all sorts of information from Canvas, discussion board, Zoom, Gmail, and redefine the meaning of classroom and space.
This is just a perfect example for transnational literacy and digital literacy we've learned this semester. Like requirements of our new knowledge and skills, accompanied with new communication rules and how we could critically reflect on the agency or issues such as marginalization towards a school policy as a text.
Yeah, Now we're engaging in producing information multimodality at the same time, breaking out the boundaries of physical learning spaces. We're not just decoding words of text, but making meanings and constructing relations with self, others, and crossing spaces during virtual learning. For example, we're showing our home, which is a private space, as the background of our Zoom sessions, make it public. And by perceiving what others are doing or speaking in the Zoom session, we'll make these connections as unique social practice. I guess teachers also read our facial expressions and signals from Zoom, such as raise hand, yes buttons, to evaluate the level of engagement. You know what interesting point I found? I can feel lost and especially embarrassed in breakout room discussion if nobody speaks and I can only see their names without virtual images.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe visual images provide more information for us to decode. Like facial expressions sometimes could embed lots of hidden meanings for interpretation. Otherwise, the black background and the name provide a sense of distancing and silence. So I really understand teachers usually suggest us opening our cameras or at least unmute ourselves. I guess these are important tactics for them to maintain effective virtual literacy education and communication.
Globalization and increasing mobility enable the chances for digital connections and the integration of the new cultures with our local settings. We are embracing new cultures and the literacies, at the same time sharing our own into the global context. This global interconnectivity makes us immerse into the literacy practice during our daily communication, but sometimes results in unequal power distribution among the languages by emphasizing monolingual ideology in education policy. However, this global interconnectivity with a high level of transformation and the cultural exchange construct the transnational literacy. Ray and Charis talk about homosexuality aim to represent literacy is not just about the language. Transnational literacy is shaped and stimulated while the people from the different social cultural backgrounds exchange ideas and cultural beliefs. For example, towards the homosexuality in society, understanding of means, for example, of the media literacy, which is heavily relies on cultural understandings. Ray and Cherry's story about the virtual learning during the current pandemic represent how the COVID-19 reshaped literacy by blurring the boundaries of the physical spaces that leads to the growth of the digital literacy. Digital literacy requires the ability to evaluate, create, and communicate information based on the technological skills. So students need to enhance their capability in coding and decoding information accompanied with new communication rules to become literate. This leads the critique towards to who is disadvantaged, who makes these rules. Virtual learning also expands more text for stakeholders to read and makes meaningful. The example use the facial express signs click bottom to evaluate the level of the engagement. However, technology sometimes fails and this leads to misconception in the communication. This brings the needs of the implementing innovative literacy education to the front. Some new pedagogies for the educators in the teaching literacy include paralingual education in classroom or provide the flexible multimodal assignment. These pedagogies requires educators' capability to deal with the diverse literacies, especially during the technology fields and an increasingly culturally diverse classroom.